There was a time, not so very long ago, when a boy could climb into the open bed of his daddy's pickup truck on a warm summer evening, lie back against a folded quilt, and watch the stars go by overhead as the truck rolled down a gravel road toward home. No seatbelt, no worry, just the wind and the smell of cut hay and the rumble of the tires. And if you told that boy or his daddy that one day a thing as ordinary as that would be against the law in most of this country, they would have laughed at you and thought you were touched in the head. But here we are. Things sure have changed. And tonight I want to walk through 10 everyday things your grandparents did without a second thought. 10 perfectly normal pieces of a normal life that are now restricted, regulated, or flat out against the law in many places. Not to stir anybody up, just to remember. Because there is one of these, near the very end, that I will bet my hat surprises you more than all the others put together. I will get to it. But not yet. Let it sit in the back of your mind as we go. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, find your chair, the good one, the one that fits you just right, and settle in with me a while. We are going to take a slow walk back through the way things used to be, one thing at a time, and I am going to tell you what each thing was like, and why it changed, and what we gained and what we lost when it did. And I will say this clearly right up front, so there is no mistake about it. I am not here to tell you to go break any law, or do anything foolish, or anything that would put you or a child in harm's way. Most of these rules came along for good reasons, and we are all safer for some of them. No question. This is just an old man remembering out loud and inviting you to remember along with me. And while you settle in, do me a small favor. Tell me down in the comments where you grew up and which of these things you remember doing yourself. A town, a farm, a city block, it does not matter. I would love to know where you were when the world was a little looser and a little freer than it is today. There is a whole life folded into a memory like that, if you take the time to unfold it. Now, let us begin. Number 1. Riding loose in the back of a pickup truck or standing up on the front seat. I started with this one because it is the one that takes me back fastest. There was no such thing in those days as buckling the children in. Half the time there was nothing to buckle them with. The little ones rode standing up on the front bench seat, holding onto the dashboard, or curled up in the back window in the sun like a cat. And when the whole family piled in to go somewhere, the kids rode in the open bed of the truck, 6 or 8 of them, knees up, hair blowing, waving at the cars behind. I can still see it plain as day. My cousins and I sprawled out on a couple of old feed sacks in the bed of my uncle's green truck, the metal warm under us from the afternoon sun, the fence posts ticking by, the dust rising up gold behind the tailgate. Going to the lake, coming home from the county fair with cotton candy still sticky on our fingers, riding out to pick blackberries along the fence line in the cool of the evening. We thought we owned the whole world from up there. Today, riding in the open bed of a moving truck is against the law for children in most states, and grown folks too in many of them. And I will be honest with you. When you understand how a body fares in even a small crash, when you understand that there is nothing at all between a child back there and the hard road but a couple feet of open air, you understand why the rule came. We lost something carefree, that is true. That wind in your hair feeling of a summer evening that I would give a good deal to feel just one more time. But we kept a great many children safe who might not have been, and somewhere a mother got to keep her boy because of it. That is the trade, and I cannot say it was a bad one. Still, I can close my eyes and feel that warm wind even now, and hear my cousins laughing over the engine. Number 2. Driving around with no seat belts at all, and nobody wearing them even when there were. For a good long stretch, cars did not come with seat belts, and when they finally did, hardly a soul used them. They tucked the belts down into the crack of the seat so they would not be in the way. Your grandmother's seat belt, if she had one, was the flat of her right arm thrown across your chest at every hard stop, and let me tell you, that arm was quicker than anything they make today. We thought nothing of it. A whole family rolling down the highway, loose as a basket of puppies. Now, of course, the seatbelt law is on the books in nearly every state, and a fellow can be pulled over and fined for going without. We grumbled about it when it came in, I remember. Felt like being told how to sit in our own cars. But the plain truth is that simple belt has saved more lives than just about any rule we ever passed, hundreds of thousands of them over the years. So this is one where the change, I think, did far more good than harm. Even so, I still remember the freedom of that bench seat and Grandma's arm, quick as a snake, keeping us all in place. Number 3. Sticking out your thumb and hitchhiking down the highway? Now here is one the young folks today can hardly imagine. There was a time when hitchhiking was just how you got around if you did not have a car. A soldier heading home on leave in his pressed uniform, a young man off to see the world with a duffel bag over his shoulder and $40 in his pocket, a fellow whose truck broke down 2 towns over and just needed to get to the parts store. You stood at the edge of the road, stuck out your thumb, and before long some kind stranger pulled over, leaned across, popped the door, and carried you 20 or 30 miles down the line. And you talked the whole way like old friends, about the crops and the ball scores and where you were headed, and when he let you out, you shook his hand and wished him well and never saw him again. I did it myself, more than once, as a young man, and I was carried by farmers and salesmen and a preacher, and once by a woman with a back seat full of children, and not a one of them ever did me a lick of harm. It was built on trust, on the plain old idea that most folks are decent and will help a traveler down the road. Today, hitchhiking is restricted or outright banned on many highways and in many states, and most folks would not dream of picking up a stranger anyhow, nor of climbing into a stranger's car, and they teach the children early to keep away from both. The world got more cautious, and I cannot say it was without cause, for there were sorrowful stories too, the kind that change a country's mind. We gained a measure of safety, but I will tell you what we lost, and it is not small. We lost a little of our faith in one another, that easy assumption that the next person down the road means you no harm and might even mean you some good. And that, my friend, is a harder thing to get back than you might think, harder than any law is to change. Number 4. Burning your leaves and your trash right in the backyard. Oh, the smell of it. If you grew up in a certain time, you know exactly the smell I mean, and just hearing me say it probably brings it right back. Autumn afternoon, the light gone gold and slanting low, the whole neighborhood out raking their yards into great brown piles, and then the blue smoke of burning leaves curling up from a dozen backyards at once, drifting down the street. That sweet, sharp smell that meant fall had truly arrived and winter was on its way. The children would jump in the piles one last time before the match was struck, and then stand back and watch the embers glow as the dark came down. And the trash, well, you burned that too, out in a rusty old 55-gallon barrel with holes punched in the sides, the paper and the scraps and the cardboard going up in flame and ash while you stood there leaning on the rake with the garden hose coiled close by just in case a spark got loose. It was just how you got rid of things. Simple as that. Today, open burning of leaves and household trash is against the law or tightly restricted in a great many towns and counties on account of the smoke, the air quality, and the fire danger. And I will grant you the reasons, every one. The air over a city full of burn barrels was a haze that was not good for anybody's lungs, and the children with the breathing trouble suffered the most. And many a grass fire, and worse than grass fire, got its start from a careless barrel on a dry and windy afternoon. So we have curbside pickup now, and the big rolling bins and compost piles, and rules about what you can and cannot set alight. We breathe cleaner air for it, and that is no small thing. But I will confess to you, I do miss that smell of burning leaves on a cool October evening, miss it like an old friend. There was no perfume in all the world quite like it, and a whole season of my childhood lived inside it. And let me pause right here just for a moment because you have been so kind to sit with me this far. If these old memories are stirring something in you, if you find yourself nodding along and thinking, yes, I did that, I remember that, then I would be so glad to have you here with us regularly. Just tap that subscribe button, no fuss, no trouble, and you will not miss the next time we sit down together like this. We are a gentle bunch here, folks who remember, folks who like to take the long way home through their memories. You belong with us. Now, back to our walk. Number 5. Buying a set of lawn darts and pitching them across the backyard at a summer cookout. Now, here is one that takes some folks a moment to believe. Lawn darts? Big, heavy darts with weighted metal points, near about a foot long, with bright plastic fins on the back end, and the game was to toss them underhand in a high arc across the yard at a plastic ring lying in the grass. They came down out of the sky point first and stuck in the lawn with a solid thunk. Whole families played it at the 4th of July picnic, the men with a cold drink in one hand and a dart in the other, the women calling from the porch, the children running out to fetch them between throws, which was exactly the trouble. They were in every hardware store and every department store in the land, stacked right there by the badminton sets and the horseshoes, and nobody thought a thing about it. But those heavy points came down hard, hard enough to do real and lasting harm, and after some terrible accidents that broke a few families' hearts forever, lawn darts of that old dangerous kind were banned from sale outright in the United States, and in Canada too. You cannot buy them new today. And honestly, when you hold one of those old steel-tipped darts in your hand and feel the cold weight of it, and then you picture a child darting across the yard to grab the ring, you understand why in about half a second. This is one where I do not argue with the rule one bit, not for a moment. But it does say something about those days, doesn't it, that we handed the children a yard full of falling metal spikes and called it a friendly lawn game? We were a little more rough and tumble back then. We climbed without helmets, and we rode in truck beds, and we played with lawn darts, and we wore our scrapes and our scars like merit badges, and somehow most of us came through, most of us. Number 6. Sending the young children off to walk to school alone, or leaving them waiting in the car. This one is tender, so let me tread gently. There was a time when a child of 6 or 7 walked to school on his own 2 feet, sometimes a mile or more, in a little band of neighborhood children, no grown-up in sight. You left the house, you walked, you came home when the streetlights came on, and nobody thought a thing of it. And it was the same with the car. Your mother would run into the store and leave you sitting in the parked car with a comic book, the windows cracked, and be back in 10 minutes, and that was just normal. Today, in many places, leaving a young child unattended in a vehicle is against the law, and a parent letting a small child roam too far alone can find themselves answering hard questions. The world got more watchful. Some of that is fear, and some of it is real. We have made childhood safer in certain ways, no doubt. But a good many folks wonder if we traded away something precious too. That long-legged freedom of a childhood spent roaming, the confidence a child built up finding his own way home, that is a tender trade, and reasonable people still argue over it. Number 7. Letting the children roam free all the livelong day, gone from dawn till dark. This is the cousin of the last one, but it deserves its own number because it was the whole shape of childhood once. You went out the screen door after breakfast on a summer morning, and your mother did not see you again until supper, and she did not worry. You and a pack of children built forts in the woods, dammed up the creek, rode bikes to the far end of town, climbed trees taller than the house, and figured out for yourselves how to settle a squabble and bind up a skinned knee. Nobody scheduled it. Nobody supervised it. The whole neighborhood was your kingdom, and the only rule was to be home when the streetlights came on. Today, that kind of free-range childhood has quietly become something that can draw the law down on a family in certain places, with rules about how young is too young to be out alone and how far is too far. The intentions are good, keeping children safe, but many an old-timer will tell you, with a catch in the voice, that the greatest gift of their childhood was exactly that freedom, the long, unwatched hours that taught them who they were. We may have made the world safer. I am not always sure we made it richer for a child. And here we are, right about the place where I told you I would remind you. We are getting close now to that one item I promised at the very start, the one I believe will surprise you more than all the rest. We are not there yet, but it is just up ahead. Hold on a little longer. Number 8. Drinking the milk straight from the farm, the raw milk, the way it came from the cow. On the farm, and for the neighbors who knew the farmer, milk came straight from the cow to the table, unpasteurized, still warm from the morning milking, the cream so thick on the top you had to shake the jar or spoon it off for your coffee. I remember a aunt of mine who kept a milk cow named Bess, and the smell of that barn at dawn, the hay and the warm animal and the milk hissing into the pail, is a thing I can call up in an instant even now, all these years later. Folks drank it that way for generations and thought it the most natural thing in the world, and many would swear up and down it was the best milk they ever tasted, richer and sweeter than anything in a carton. Today, the sale of raw, unpasteurized milk is against the law or tightly restricted in many states on account of the germs it can carry, which can make a body quite sick, especially the very young and the very old and anybody whose health is already fragile. Pasteurizing the milk, heating it just so to kill what might harm you, made it safe. And that one change saved a great many people from real misery and worse over the years, more than most folks ever stop to think about. So I understand the rule, and I would not wave it away. But there is a whole way of life wrapped up in that glass of warm farm milk, the family cow with a name, the neighbor down the road you bought from with a handshake, the plain trust between people who knew exactly where every bite and every sip of their food came from and who had raised it. We are safer now, and farther from our food than ever before, both at the very same time, and I am not sure we have fully reckoned the cost of that second part. And while I have you here, let me ask you one more small favor, because you have been such fine company. If you are enjoying this slow walk down memory lane, do an old fellow a kindness and tap that subscribe button if you have not already. It is free, it takes a second, and it means the world to me to know you will be back next time we gather. There is more where this came from, a whole lifetime of it. Now let us press on, because we are nearly to the surprise. Number 9. Setting off the big fireworks yourself, right there in the front yard. There was a time when a man could buy a whole crate of fireworks, the real ones, the big ones, and put on a show for the whole neighborhood right from his own front yard on the 4th of July. The Roman candles, the bottle rockets, the great booming shells, and the children with their sparklers writing their names in the dark. No permit, no license, no fence around it, and no professional in sight. Just a fellow in his shirt sleeves, a glowing punk to light the fuse, a row of lawn chairs, and a yard full of family and neighbors leaning back to watch the sky light up over the rooftops. I can still hear the whistle and the crack of it, and the babies crying and the dogs barking and everybody saying ooh and ah together in the dark. Today, many of the bigger fireworks are against the law for ordinary folks in a great many states and towns, limited to the licensed shows put on by the professionals, and a backyard fellow can find himself in real trouble for setting off the wrong kind. The reasons are plain enough: the fires and the injuries, the fingers and the eyes lost every summer. We are safer keeping the big ones in professional hands, I do not doubt it. But there was a magic in a homemade neighborhood show, the whole street out on lawn chairs, that a faraway display over the river never quite matches. Some magic only comes up close. Number 10. And here it is, the one I told you to watch for, all the way back at the start, collecting the rain that falls from the sky in a barrel under your downspout. Now, I will wager that surprised you. Of all the things on this list, this is the one that stops folks cold, because it seems so plainly harmless, so plainly right. Rain falls on your roof, runs down your gutter, and you put a barrel under the spout to catch it, the way folks have done since before this country was a country. You used that soft rainwater on the garden and the flowers, and it was free, and it fell from heaven onto your own land. And yet, believe it or not, in certain states and certain places, collecting rainwater has at times been restricted or regulated by law on account of old water rights rules that say the rain that falls is already promised downstream to somebody else who depends on it. Now, many places have since loosened these rules and even encourage a rain barrel today. But the very idea that catching rainwater could ever be against the law, that the water falling out of the sky onto your own roof might not be entirely yours to keep, well, that is the one that truly tells you how much the world has changed. Your grandparents would have shaken their heads in plain disbelief. I shook mine the first time I heard it, and I am not sure I have stopped. Now, I told you that one would surprise you, and I hope it did because it surprised me, and I have been around a while. But let me sit with it a moment longer, because there is something in it worth holding on to. It is not really about the rain barrel. It is about how a thing so simple, so old, so close to the bone of how people have always lived, can quietly slip behind a rule before anybody even notices. That is the real lesson of this whole list. When you stand back and look at the shape of it, one by one, the plain, ordinary pieces of an ordinary life, the truck bed and the open road and the burning leaves and the barrel of rain, got fenced in by good intentions and hard lessons, until the world your grandparents lived in, loose and free and a little dangerous, became the world we have now, padded and careful and watched. And I am not here to say which is better. I truly am not. Because the honest truth is that most of these changes saved lives and saved suffering, and I would not wish back the days of the dangerous lawn dart or the loose child in the truck bed if it meant burying a single one of those children. We are safer. Our roads are safer, our backyards are safer, our milk is safer, our children are safer in 100 ways their grandparents never managed. That is real, and it is good, and I will not pretend otherwise. A great deal of the carefulness we grumble about was bought with the grief of folks who learned these lessons the hardest way there is. And yet, there is an ache in it too, isn't there? Because along with the danger, we fenced in some of the freedom and some of the trust and some of the plain neighborly closeness that made those days what they were. The stranger who picked you up on the highway, the milkman and the farmer you knew by name, the whole street out on the lawn for the fireworks, the children roaming free as the wind from dawn till dark. Those things did not get banned exactly, but they faded in the same long tide that carried the rules in, and now they live mostly in the memories of folks like you and me who were lucky enough to be there. So what do we do with all that? An old man and his friend, sitting here at the end of this list. I do not think we go breaking laws, and I have told you that plainly more than once tonight. The rules are mostly here for reasons, and we honor those reasons, and we keep ourselves and our families safe, because that matters more than nostalgia ever could. But I do think we can carry the good part forward, the part that no rule ever touched. We can still know our neighbors by name. We can still trust folks a little more than the world tells us to. We can still send the children outside to play in the long summer light, within reason and within the law, and let them skin a knee and find their own way home. We can still gather the family close on a warm evening and watch the sky together, even if somebody else is lighting the fireworks now. The freedom your grandparents knew was never only in the things they were allowed to do. It was in the way they lived close to one another, and close to the land, and unafraid. And that, my friend, no law can take from you. You know, I have thought a great deal about those grandparents of ours, the ones who rode loose in the truck bed and burned their leaves and drank their farm milk and caught their rain in a barrel. They were not reckless people, they were not foolish. They simply lived in a world that had not yet learned all the hard lessons we have learned, and they lived it wide open, with the windows down and the children out the door and the neighbor's hand always close by. We know more than they did about danger and safety and all the ways a thing can go wrong, but I am not certain we know more than they did about how to live. There is a kind of wisdom in that old wide open way, a faith in the world and in each other, that all our rules and all our caution can never quite replace, and that I, for one, do not want to see forgotten. So here is what I would love from you tonight. Down in the comments below, tell me this. Which one of these 10 did you do yourself? And which one do you miss the most, now that it is gone or against the law? The truck bed, the burning leaves, the long free childhood, the fireworks in the yard. Tell me your story, just a sentence or two, because somebody else reading needs to hear it, and together we can keep these old memories from disappearing for good. I read every single one, and I treasure them more than you know. And if you have enjoyed sitting with me through this old list, if it carried you back to a screen door slamming on a summer morning or the smell of leaves burning in the cool of October, then do an old fellow a favor and subscribe so we can do this again real soon. Next time, I want to take you back into your grandmother's kitchen and show you 10 ordinary things every household kept on hand back then that have all but vanished from our homes today. Simple things that work better than what replaced them. You will not want to miss it. We will keep the old wisdom alive together, you and I, one quiet evening at a time. So pour yourself one more cup, hold your people a little closer tonight, and remember that the richest part of those old days was never the danger and never the freedom alone. It was the closeness. Take good care of yourself, and I will see you next time.